What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Straight Facts, a sports show that educates and entertains. As always, brought to you by the Up On Game Presents podcast network. Make sure you guys are following them wherever you do get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, iHeartMedia, and all of that. But listen, Stat Matt, we got a good episode today, man. I'm liking this one because it's been a minute since we had a really good guest to break things down. And I'm joined with our guy, Damian Adams, host of the Real Deal with Damian Adams podcast, also co-host of the Third and Three podcast, but he's joining us on Straight Facts podcast. So Damian, man, appreciate you joining us and our Straight Facts people. And you tell people all about your podcast, what you do, and everything.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it and definitely can tell this is going to be a good episode with you guys.
Yes, sir.
As far as for me, my podcast is called The Real Deal with Damian Adams. On my podcast, I cover the NFL, NBA, and boxing. So if you enjoy those three sports, or even just one of the three or two of the three, you definitely will enjoy that podcast. I pride myself in presenting straight facts as well, but you also get some laughs, some serious talk in my podcast as well. So you definitely will enjoy it if you're a sports fan. The other podcast I do is called the Third and Three podcast. That one is more NFL based. You could probably guess with the name Third and Three. And of course, it's with three people. It's with Jason Fearman, Nikki, Justin, myself. Those two are very experienced and know their football for sure and have a lot of experience actually covering the league and being around the league. So I learned a lot from those two. So you can subscribe to both of those podcasts wherever you listen to podcasts. The Third and Three podcast is actually done live on Facebook every Wednesday night. So if you go and look up Third and Three on Facebook, you'll see us every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time for the Third and Three podcast. But if you can't catch it live, don't trip. Just subscribe and listen to it later on.
I love it. I love all of that. So you used to doing live podcasts, so we don't got to worry about you being not ready for the moment, or you were even worried about doing this on one take because, like you said, it's the real deal. You do it live. I like that because, man, I think that merges.
Mm-hmm.
We got straight facts and we got the real deal. I think that coincides perfectly.
For sure.
But as you guys know, our Straight Facts listeners, you guys know we're continuing with our off-season series as we patiently await for football, and it's almost here. No more Sundays without NFL football, and pretty soon there'll be no more Sundays without real NFL football until February. But it's still the off-season, which means some news has been shaking, some things have been going down. So we're just going to real quick, Dane, what we're going to do is we're going to have a little off-season update and just see what's going on, what happened this past week in the league, and see how things are shaking up a little bit. But the first thing, and I think the most important, is Kareem Hunt, after requesting from the Browns a long-term deal, a contract extension. He's on the final year of a 2-year deal with the Browns. The Browns say no, deny his request for a long-term extension. They don't come to terms. So then Kareem Hunt requests a trade from the Cleveland Browns. And so it looks like Kareem Hunt's parting ways from Cleveland. Cleveland is committing to a one-back set now with Nick Chubb. So Dame, I'll come to you first. Just a first immediate reaction to the Nick Chubb news, or to the Kareem Hunt news, and like who is affected more by this move? Is it Kareem Hunt or is it the Browns?
Well, it'll definitely be Kareem Hunt that'll be affected more, depending on how they go forward with the situation. So with the news that I read, it was that they declined the extension, and then it was like, when he asked for a trade, it was like, oh no, we're not gonna trade you either. You're just gonna play out this contract, or you're gonna sit down. And it's something that you don't see a lot of teams do, especially in the NBA. You don't see teams say, you're under contract, you're going to do this. Like, this is what you signed up for, be a professional and play. And that's what the Browns are saying. The Browns are saying, okay, we couldn't come to terms with you on, a long-term extension, but you're just not going to get out of town. We want to commit to having you on the team. Now, if he is so disgruntled that he doesn't want to play, I don't see Nick Chubb having an issue carrying the load. Like, he's definitely somebody who can carry the load. He can handle that as a running back, and they can go forward with him. And maybe even, I believe they still have Dearness Johnson on the roster as well. So if they still have him on the roster, he can fill that role fine. Like, it's not like Kareem Hunt is going to cause the Browns offense to not be as good as it was last year. There's other elements outside of running back position that we all know about with Deshaun Watson that would cause the Browns to have issues on offense. It wouldn't be the running back position. So Kareem Hunt, I don't know if this was the best way to go about it for him, being with his history as well. Somebody who the Browns got for cheap because of his history, and he's been clean the last few years as far as his off
Yeah, been
field.
squeaky clean. I was about to say, been
Yeah,
squeaky clean since. Been squeaky
yes,
clean since.
yeah, it's been squeaky clean since. But you know that type of thing just doesn't really leave you, right? It still is in the back of people's minds sometimes, and unfortunately so, because like you say, he's been squeaky clean and probably is a great person, but because of his history, it's going to be hard for him to say things like, "I want to trade. I've been doing this, squeaky clean for a couple of years now, and you guys should let me out of my contract, or you guys should trade me for something else." People are going to be like, "Come on, bro, you're a football player making millions of dollars. They want you to play football." So I don't know if I was his agent, I would advise him to do that. I would try to see if maybe you play out this year, ball out, be professional, and then next year when you're a free agent or the Browns see this and like, oh, we need to keep you on. So I think that'll definitely affect Hunt more because the Browns have other ways to make up for his production.
Um,
It's not the first time we've seen Cleveland this season go to feud with one of their players, and eventually the last time their player won. So Stat, I mean, do you agree with Dame here? Is it no player empowerment over there in Cleveland?
the thing, it's not about Cleveland, it's about running backs. The sad fact of the matter is that running backs really don't matter that much in today's NFL. And I really think whenever the next collective bargaining agreement is, the NFL Players Association union rep needs to push to get running backs something, because it's just going to be running backs going into the league on a 4-year rookie contract. Then the NFL is going to say after the 4-year rookie contract they're used up, they're not worth a contract anymore. Kareem Hunt is 26 years old. He just had 4.9 yards per carry. This is when you would normally give a running back an extension with some good money, but that the history is it just never works. The only time it works is when it's for like Adrian Peterson or Derrick Henry, and he's not that caliber. And the Browns are right in this scenario where you're a running back, you have no leverage. Sit out, we'll find a
Well,
replacement back to be 80% as good, and it won't affect us that much.
here's why don't I think the Browns are correct because of how their team is being constructed. Not in the sense of Kareem Hunt not being worth, a contract going forward, because I think he could be and he will be, and I'll get to that part later. But if you look at the Cleveland Browns, you don't have the same team as you did with Baker Mayfield being there. That team with Baker Mayfield, you wanted them to be a run first team, took more pressure off of Baker Mayfield. Look how big they were. This two back set of two physical, powerful backs, David Njoku, Jonathan Peoples Jones, like big receivers, big on the offensive side. Now the dynamic of their team is flipped. Amari Cooper is still a bigger wide receiver, but that presents speed now. Deshaun Watson presents speed, a dynamic quarterback. And so if I'm looking at my offense, I'm not looking at a team that I want to be run heavy anymore. I don't want a two back system. And not only do I have two backs, I have two backs that produce at a number one back type level. I have two 1,000-yard rushers. And which one of them is better in the passing game? Like that, there's your point, Stat Matt. That's why running backs are going down. It's not that running backs are the value of running backs are going down. The value of just physical running backs who aren't named Derrick Henry are going down. If you're not Derrick Henry, you better be able to produce in the passing game as well, or teams are going to find you expendable. Because I can replace Kareem Hunt's physicality with Dearness Johnson's physicality, but I can't replace Nick Chubb's passing ability with Kareem Hunt's, or catching ability with Kareem Hunt's catching ability. So I think it's more of the Cleveland Browns kind of recognizing where their offense is going and saying like, "Hey, man, like we'll see how we'll play out your contract this year just because, we're not just going to let you walk and we don't really want to trade you because running backs don't have a crazy value, but we're not committing to you long term because that's not where our team is going. Our team is going towards more of a fast style. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I see. It's almost like, hey man, it's just a business. This is not like Dame. You bring up his past, but I don't think it's anything personal with Kareem Hunt. It's Deshaun Watson fell in our lap, and this is where I think our team will be best. It's not your style of run.
Now, you guys both make great points. Matt's point about the running back position not being as valued as it was, in the past, in the glory days of the Emmitt Smiths and the Barry Sanders and all those guys. It
He a
being
running back hitter. He a little running back hitter. Let me tell you, like he got you got something against running back. I don't know what it is.
No, I
He
like
do
running
got a little
backs.
sort
I
of
just don't think
no no
they're
no.
like. I think the dumbest thing the Eagles could do next season is give Miles Sanders an extension. But I don't
You
dislike
see, he
Miles
starts talking
Sanders.
stuff like that.
It's just how the NFL works. I love Shady McCoy. I love Brian Westbrook. They're some of my favorite players when I was a kid and when I was in college. And now it's
So yeah,
just
the glory day running backs. That's
Yeah.
what you don't like new running. You
no,
don't
no,
like
no.
new age running
Brian
backs.
Westbrook was a new running back just in the old days. He was could catch
He
the ball
was.
out of the backfield and run. He had seasons with like 1,000 rushing yards and then like 600 receiving yards.
He was. He was ahead of his time
Okay,
for sure. But yeah,
okay, real
but
quick.
to that
Go ahead.
original point, like that's the truth. Like running backs are being devalued unless they are those guys who can carry an offense like a Derrick Henry or someone like a Jonathan Taylor, those type of guys who the whole offense is dependent on. Even Alvin Kamara in New Orleans doesn't have the same low as Derrick Henry, but he is as important because of his role in the offense. So if you're not the type of back, you're Kareem Hunt and you're splitting time, it's hard for you to say, I need a new contract now. I deserve this now because you're splitting time. Like you pointed out, James, that he is very important to the offense because of what he did last year in the passing game or in the running game, excuse me, as far as being that physical back, being that change of pace guy. But Dearness Johnson can do that same thing. And we've seen him in games, right? When both running backs went down, Dearness Johnson went out there and balled out. So we know that he's capable. So once you have someone else who can do your job, they may not be as good as you, but they can provide that same production.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what else can I say as the Browns would be like, hey, we presenting the facts. Like this is what it
That's
is.
all it is. This is just a business at the end of the day. Like
Yeah.
it's nothing against you. It's just like, hey, man, like this is not conducive to what our team and Dearness Johnson can do it well enough for us. He may not do it like Kareem Hunt, but he can do it well enough for what the Browns need. And to your point exactly, Dame, running backs went down last year. Dearness Johnson stepped up and everyone kind of immediately knew that this brother was going to make a name for himself when he's out there, scored a bunch of touchdowns in the 2-3 games that he gets. But I don't think this is the end of the road for Kareem Hunt. There are so many teams in the NFL that can use this brother, and don't get it twisted. You give him 90, 100 carries a season, and he's still probably going to give you close to 1,000 yards. Like if even if I'm looking down his like looking down his stats, his yearly stats right now. I mean, 2020 he gets 198 carries, 841 yards. The last time with the Chiefs he had a good season, 181 carries, 824 yards, and then before that his monster season, 272 carries for 1,300 yards. He's a workhorse back.
Yeah.
And there are teams in the NFL who want a workhorse back. He's still going to be very good. Like I don't think Matt's over there smiling at me like, no, this is the end of the road for Buddy. Like
no, 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 no.
I don't think so.
Kareem Hunt's gonna have like almost like a relief pitcher career. That's what his career is
See,
gonna
like
be.
that's crazy.
Like he's gonna spend a year or two at a bunch of different clubs until he watches up, and they could be productive. They could not be productive. But teams aren't going to take. Teams are not going to sign him to a contract longer than 2 seasons, which is no way that happens.
The thing is, Matt is probably correct, but it is sad because running backs, because there are so many good running backs, ones like Kareem Hunt who are good but not great get devalued way too much, right? Like a team could definitely use a Kareem Hunt, especially like you mentioned, James, with him being someone who can carry the load for you, give you 20, 25 carries a game. Teams need to bring that back somewhat. I feel like teams have gotten away from that too much as far as time of possession. You don't hear that too much anymore. You don't hear time of possession used as a good thing, right? It used to be a big thing where teams would be like, "Oh, we want to control time of possession." That
the
term
Niners
kind of like got retired.
The Niners went to the NFC Championship. The Niners went to the NFC Championship doing that exact thing. Like this, there's so many teams that can be successful at it. I really just think Kareem Hunt can help. But